November 2023, paper 2, variant 2. Question 1, which quantity is a scalar quantity? Scalar quantity is
Time.
definitely time, because there's no direction. A student measures the average speed of a cyclist in a race. Which quantities must she measure? Average speed. Which quantities must she measure? Time taken. Huh? Any ideas?
total time taken and total distance traveled.
Total time taken بالظبط and total distance traveled. Okay. Should it be B or should it be something else? Total time taken to complete the race and total distance.
No, it's C.
It is
C.
C. It's not B. Okay. Not the distance traveled by the cyclist at her highest speed. This is wrong. Just the total distance. The diagram shows a series of images of a moving object taken at regular intervals. The object is moving from left to right. Which statement describes the motion of the object? Which statement describes the motion of the object? What's happening?
It was at a constant speed and then it accelerated.
It was yes, it was at a constant speed initially, and then it accelerated. This is correct because initially the distances between the points were constant, and then the distances started to increase, meaning that the object was increasing its speed, accelerating. Okay. Plastic ball has a mass of 4 grams, a volume of 20 centimeters cubed. There is a crack in the ball's surface. The ball is placed in a bath of water. The water leaks into the ball without changing the volume of the ball. And eventually the ball sinks. The density of water is 1 times 10 to the power, 1 gram per centimeter cubed. Which mass of water has entered the ball when the top of the ball is first level with the water surface? How can I calculate this?
Can we do wait, لا.
Hmm.
Can you find the density بتاع البول؟ يعني نعمل mass of volume ولا؟
A density of the ball.
density of the ball قصدي ده قصدي دي density بتاعت المية. Okay, never mind.
لا بالظبط the question is which mass of water has entered the ball, okay? When the ball is first just below the surface, this is the ball and this is the surface of the water, okay? When the ball has just يعني reached the surface of the water. How can I do it?
So for the ball, it's saying the ball eventually sinks, so we need to find the mass that's gonna make the density of the ball greater than the density of the water.
Just equal to the density of the water.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, this is correct. You need the mass when the density of the ball would be just equal to the density of the water. The density of the water is 1 gram per centimeter cubed. And the volume of the ball is 20 centimeters cubed. Can I find the mass, the new mass of the ball?
So it would have to be it would have to have 16 grams entered.
Yes, exactly. Mass equals density times volume. So 1, which is the new density, times the volume, which is 20 grams. The new mass of the ball should be 20 grams, but it initially had the mass of 4 grams. So you need to subtract 4 grams, which would give a total of 16 grams of water, which have been added to the ball. Okay?
شنو السؤال؟
Again, the ball initially, it was a plastic ball. It was hollow from inside, so it was floating on the surface of the water. Okay? It had a crack, and this crack and some water started leaking into the ball. Okay?
Okay.
One by one, the mass of the ball started to increase. Why? Because it was being filled up with water. Until the water just sinks just below the surface of the water. Okay, now the ball is just below the surface of the water, which means that its density is now equal to the density of the water.
Okay. So so we're gonna use الدنسيتي بتاعت المية والفوليوم.
Yes, exactly. You have the density of the water and you have the volume, so you can find the new mass of the ball. Okay. Okay. And if, again, he's asking what's the mass of the water that has entered the ball. A satellite orbits the Earth at constant speed in circular orbit. Which statement is correct? Circular motion.
It's towards Earth.
Towards Earth صح عشان it's perpendicular تمام.
Exactly. Centripetal force or centripetal acceleration, which is always towards the center of the rotation. Yeah. The diagram shows four identical objects. Which diagram shows an object in equilibrium? Which diagram is in equilibrium? Any ideas?
دي ولا
It is D. Yes, it is D. Okay. The upward forces are equal to the downward forces, and this object will not rotate. A will start to rotate. Okay, A will start to rotate. So there
Why?
is a resultant moment. Why? Because the 20 newtons is acting on this side again, and there's 10 newtons on this side only. The resultant moment, if you calculate the moment, for example, if you take the moment about the pivot, if you take the pivot to be at this point or whatever, if you want to calculate it, you'll find there will be a resultant moment. But in D, there will be no resultant moment. Okay.
Oh, it's because the line, like because the line's in the middle, that's why.
Yeah.
Hmm.
A resultant force F accelerates a car of mass M along a horizontal road. Okay. From rest to speed v in a time t, giving it a momentum p. Which pair of relationships for this situation is correct? Yeah, this is a
See?
C. C is correct. Yes, C definitely is correct. Momentum equals mv, and we know that the momentum would also be equal to the force times the time. Okay, the change in momentum, the impulse. Yes. Question 8 has been repeated more than once before. As it moves from X to Y, what happens to the kinetic energy and the gravitational potential energy?
Increases or decreases.
This increases and decreases.
Hmm.
A box is initially at rest at the top of the rough slope. Okay, the box slides down the slope. The weight of the box is 20 newtons. The slope is 4 meters long and 2 meters high. The box does 10 joules of work against friction as it slides down the slope. What is the speed of the box as it reaches the bottom of the slope? Perfect. This is a really, really nice question. What should we do? Or how can we solve this question? Any ideas?
I don't know الطريقة اللي أنا بفكر فيها دي صح ولا غلط بس يعني بس half mg لا half mv squared equals mgh ولا لا
That would have, يعني, that is right. Okay, that is right.
يعني
But
easier right?
you're missing something, which is the friction. Okay,
Mm.
you're missing that there is some energy lost due to friction. Okay, so you just need to add it somewhere in the equation. But that equation would be perfectly right. Why? Because initially the box was here. It had some gravitation potential energy. As it's moving down, it loses some energy due to friction. Okay. as thermal energy, as heat energy, and then as it reaches the bottom, okay, it has some kinetic energy. Initially, we usually say that the kinetic energy is equal to the gravitational potential energy, but in this case, the kinetic energy would be slightly less than the gravitational potential energy. Why? Because some of the energy was lost to friction, due to friction. Okay? Can I calculate the gravitational potential energy, the initial GPE? Can I calculate it?
Yeah.
Yes. Initially, the gravitational potential energy was equal to mgh. We don't have the mass.
No, we have the weight.
We
So
have
can we do weight? Sorry. خليني أعرف. So
the
weight is equal to mg, but then هتبقى الماss is
wait,
equal to weight.
wait. You don't need to calculate the mass because mg is the weight. So you already have mg, which is 20, and you can just multiply it by the height, which is 2.
True.
صح. صح.
Okay? So this would give you a total gravitational potential energy of 40 joules. Okay? As it slides down, uh, what happens to the
10 joules
yes,
Mg.
it loses 10
to
joules.
30.
So
Yeah.
the total kinetic energy should be 30 joules.
Mm.
In this case, we will need to find the mass because the kinetic energy is half mv squared. So
Yeah.
for this case, yes, we do need to find the mass. So mass equals weight over g, which is 20 over 9.8, which would be just above 2. 2 point something, 2 point 1,
2.04.
2.04 kilograms. Okay, so half mv squared equals 30 joules. Half mv squared equals 30 joules. Half times 2.04, 2.04 times v squared, okay, times v squared equals 30 joules.
So V equals the square root of
Mhm.
30 divided.
So v equals the
Okay.
square root of 30 divided by 1.02 because half times 2.4 is 1.02. Square root of 30 divided by 1.02 would be around 5.4, I guess, maybe. Yeah, probably it is 5.4.
Yeah, 5.5.
Okay. This is a really interesting question. Please do try to solve it again. Okay? Okay. Next question. Question 10. Do you have any problems with this question? Question 9? 10. Car is charged overnight in 8 hours, 180 megajoules of energy is transferred. What's the power of the charger? It's quite easy. How can I calculate the power? Power equals power equals energy over time. So, what's the energy?
هنعمل 180 times like a million times 10 to the
A
power 6.
million. Yes, thank you. Times 10 to the power of 6. 180 times a million, which is 10 to the power of 6, divided by
هنعمل بقى 8 times 60 times 60.
Times
times
3,600.
3,600. Yes. This would give a total power of
6,250.
6,250, which is around 6.3 kilowatts.
Yeah.
Okay. What's the density rho of the liquid? How can I calculate the density if I have the pressure, the height, and the G?
A.
OG. Wait. The pressure.
See, so P is rho GH, not rho is PGH. Huh? So A is wrong. How can I find the rho? How can I find the density?
It's D. It's like a P over GH. So it's
Yes.
D.
Okay. You just need to
You know,
rearrange the equation.
all of the mistakes me and Farida make are because of the
See,
pressure and liquid.
you need to really concentrate on these questions. Okay. That's actually the only, honestly, this is the only problem with paper two. Okay. Paper two is really easy, but the only problem with it are these stupid questions. Okay. You lose really, really stupid marks on these questions. Please try to not lose these marks. Okay. Brownian motion, in which states of matter does the Brownian motion happen?
All.
No,
In
wait, isn't it gas?
solids?
Wait, isn't it gas and liquid?
Yeah, the
Gases and
vibration.
liquids only. Gases and liquids only. The Brownian motion only happens in gases and liquids.
Oh.
The volume of fixed mass of gases varied. The temperature remains constant. Which graph shows how the pressure P of the gas varies with the volume V?
As the volume increases, the pressure would decrease.
As the volume increases, the pressure decreases. Okay. Which answer should you choose?
D
D.
ولا لا ولا لا.
Hmm.
What?
What? Oh, wait, I'm so
See, now this is where you should get confused.
It's not. Wait.
Okay.
proportional.
It's not A or D, I think.
It's we are
Or is it
familiar.
D?
We are familiar with another graph, which is the pressure and the volume should be inversely proportional. For example, this is the pressure and the volume.
Yeah,
We
it
are
is D. It is.
familiar with this graph, that they are inversely proportional, the pressure and the volume. Okay, so A and B are wrong. A and B are wrong. In C and D, the volume, it's not the volume, it's actually the inverse of the volume. It's the
Yeah.
inverse of the volume. So the
Yes.
pressure, we know that the pressure and the volume are inversely proportional. But if I say the pressure and the inverse of the volume, they would be directly proportional.
So it's D.
It's D. Yes. Okay. Okay. The pressure and the inverse of the volume would be directly proportional. Yeah. Liquid evaporates from a beaker. What happens to the temperature of the remaining liquid, and how does the temperature change affect the rate of evaporation?
Decreases.
Yes. Temperature decreases and the rate of evaporation also decreases. Thermal energy is supplied energy. Okay, what is the specific heat capacity? How can I calculate the specific heat capacity?
E over mass.
Yes, E over M delta T. Okay, yes. E over M delta T. A room is heated by a radiator. Which diagram is correct and why? What's the reason? Which diagram should be correct? A radiator is a heater. So how should the air move? Should it move upwards or downwards?
Upwards.
Upwards.
Yeah.
Because
Heater,
the density decreases.
because the density decreases. This is correct. Okay, so X, air density decreases when it is heated. Soon writes down some facts about two transverse waves. Wave 1 has a frequency f and a velocity v. Wave 2 has 4 times the frequency of wave 1, 4 times the frequency of wave 1, and is traveling at a velocity of 2v. What is the wavelength of wave 2 in terms of f and v? 4 times the frequency, okay, and 2V. 4 times the frequency and 2V. How can I calculate the wavelength?
We do.
Speed over frequency.
Yeah. So
Okay.
would it be C?
Okay, so it's speed over frequency, صح?
Yeah.
But the speed is
So
actually 2V
yeah,
And then 4.
it's V
and
over 2F.
4F. So simple, yeah, you
Oh,
just need to simplify this, okay? 2 over 4 would be 1 over 2, which would be D, okay? Yeah. Straight wave fronts on the surface of a ripple tank approach a gap. What's the name of this effect?
diffraction.
Definitely diffraction. Light travels from air into glass. What's the angle? What's the relationship between the refractive index and the angle of incidence I and angle of refraction R? From air into glass. Quite easy.
D.
C,
Yeah.
definitely C. Okay, sine I over sine R. Okay, actually, it could have been sine R over sine I. Okay, it could have been sine R over sine I if he had said that light travels from glass into air. Okay, if he had said it was the other way around, okay, from glass into air, it would have been the sine R over sine I. Why? Because
It's
in that
always the
case,
more dense over the less dense.
it's always the less
know.
dense over the more
Yeah.
dense. Okay, it's
Yeah.
always the
Yeah.
air over the glass. Okay. Okay. Which diagram shows the image, the reflection of the image? Which diagram would be the reflected image? It's quite easy.
D.
D, definitely D. Yes. Which lens has the longest focal length? Hmm. Which lens has the longest focal length?
Isn't it only one lens?
Hmm?
Where, where's the other lens?
No, I don't care. I only care about the focal length. Which of these, okay, X or Y, which of them is the focal length?
Why?
Y. So you only care about the Y. So it would be B. That's it.
What's what?
Oh,
Y
so
is the longest wavelength. 3.1 is longer than 2 and 2.3 and 2.4.
Oh,
That's it. That's all there is to this question.
I thought there's more than one lens. Like which lens?
No,
I
no.
don't see.
Okay. Can you find the wavelength of these microwaves?
we're gonna use the speed بتاع light.
Speed of the light. Yes. So wavelength equals, again, speed over frequency.
بس
Speed of
هنا times برضو by a billion million قصدي.
million, yes. 3 times 10 to the power of 8 over 2,400 megahertz. So 2,400 times 10 to the power of 6. 3 over 24 would
I
be
thought
0.125.
a million is to the power of 6. Oh, it is to the power of 6. That's right. And then a billion is how much?
To the power of 9.
8?
A billion would have been, for example, gigahertz. Actually, you can write this down as 2.4 gigahertz. Okay? This could be written down as 2.4 gigahertz. Okay? Which row gives typical values for the speed of sound in solid and glass? In solid and gas.
دي
Yes, D. Solid, it would be around 3,000, and gas, it would be around 300. Hard magnetic material. Which row shows whether iron and steel are hard or soft materials? We know that iron is
soft.
soft and steel is hard. Very simple. Conventional current and the free electron flow.
the conventional current is from Y to X.
Yes, conventional current would be from Y to X, but the electron flow would be
X to Y.
X to
X to
Y.
Y. Yes,
So C.
from Y to X and X to Y. EMF, the unit of EMF is
Volt.
volts. Yeah. The graph shows the current voltage characteristics for a filament lamp. Which statement describes how the resistance of the lamp changes as the voltage increases? What happens when the voltage increases?
The resistance increases.
The resistance increases. Yes. In diagram R, rod R is
Wait,
suspended.
I didn't get it. I didn't get it.
You didn't get it. When it curves towards the voltage axis, okay, the filament lamp, it curves towards the voltage axis. This means that the resistance increases. Why? Because resistance equals voltage over current. When the voltage increases and the current doesn't increase as much, therefore the resistance would increase. This is due to the lamp being heated. Okay, a filament lamp, the temperature of the filament lamp increases with time. Okay. So again, any curve that is any current voltage graph that is curving towards the voltage axis would have an increasing resistance. Any okay, you can actually draw it this way as well. You can actually draw it this way as well. Okay, this is also an increasing resistance. Why? Because it's curving towards the voltage axis. We have rod Q and R. Now R is moving away from rod Q. Why is that?
It's also positively charged.
It has to be positively charged. The circuit diagram shows a circuit used to run a DC motor from an AC supply. Which graph shows the current in the motor? Which graph shows the current in the motor?
D.
Did you say D?
No, I said C.
C.
Yeah.
I'll tell you something. C would have been right. C would have been right if you did not have these two diodes. Okay? Why? Because in C, what happens? The current passes, okay, the first half cycle, okay, and then in the other half cycle, it wouldn't be able to pass. But due to these two diodes, what happens in the second half cycle? What happens to the current as it moves this way? It passes through this diode, okay, and then goes through the motor, and then goes back through the other diode. Okay, so you have two paths for the current. It will pass in either way. Okay, it will pass in either way. So it would be D. Okay, because
It
it
looks
will.
like it's so confusing.
It is a bit confusing. Yes, I know it is a bit confusing. We call this a full wave rectifier. You're not required to actually know what is a full wave rectifier, but what I mean, okay, again,
So it changed the direction to make it go back to the same side of the graph.
yes, okay, it's moving from the same side. Um, in other terms, the current does not stop, okay? Or the current is not cut through the motor. The motor is continuously running. In this case, the motor is continuously running. Why? Because there are two other diodes, which allow the current to pass in the opposite direction. Okay. If you didn't have these two diodes, it would have been C. Again, if you didn't have these two diodes, it would have been C. If you didn't have any diodes at all, it would have been A. If you didn't have any diodes at all, it would have been A. If you didn't have these two diodes, it would have been C. But because you have these two diodes, it is now.
Wait, how can it be A if it's a DC motor?
I'm not talking about the DC. I'm talking about the AC current. Okay,
Oh,
it's an alternating current. It would have been alternate. That's it. the motor would have not worked properly. Okay, but so okay, that's what it is. So for this case, yes, it is D. Hmm. Circuit shown can be completed by inserting components at X and Y. The completed circuit is a potential divider. Okay, in which the potential difference of the potential difference across component Y, potential difference across component Y increases when the temperature increases. The potential difference across component Y increases when the temperature increases. What's the component we know of that changes its resistance or its potential difference when the temperature it changes?
Thermistor.
Thermistor. But we know that the method of operation of the thermistor is not like that. It's actually inversely proportional to the temperature, right? We know that the thermistor, the thermistor, what happens in the thermistor when the temperature increases? What happens to the resistance? The resistance decreases, and the voltage or the potential difference as well decreases. How can you have a component in Y that increases its potential difference when the voltage, when the temperature increases? How can you do that? Hmm.
A light dependent.
Resistor.
Nope, not a light dependent. This you will use a thermistor, but you not put the thermistor in position Y.
Why? We put it in X.
You put it in X.
But
Why?
don't go for X dependent.
Okay. So when you have the thermistor in X, this is the thermistor. You have the thermistor in X. Let's increase the temperature. Let's increase the temperature. What will happen to the resistance? The resistance will decrease, and the voltage, of component X, again, I'm talking about of component X now, the voltage of component X will decrease. When the voltage of component X decreases, what happens to the voltage of component Y?
Their series. Oh, okay.
Increases.
لا دي لفت طويلة قوي يعني.
Yes. Okay. So that's why the thermistor has to be in position X, not position Y. Again, you want some component in Y, to increase its potential difference when the temperature increases. We do not have a component, we do not have a device that increases its potential difference when the temperature increases. Okay, we don't have a device that does that. We only have a device that decreases its potential difference when the temperature increases, which is the thermistor. So if they are both in series, if the voltage of the thermistor increases, then the voltage of any other component in series would decrease. They would be vice versa. Why? Because let's say this is 24 volts. The EMF of the battery is 24 volts. Initially, the thermistor had 12 volts and the component Y had 12 volts. When the temperature increases, what happens to the voltage? What happens to the potential difference? Okay, it decreases. Let's say it becomes 6 volts. So the voltage or the potential difference of the other component has to increase to 18 volts. Why? Because the total voltage, total potential difference has to be 24. Okay? So now X has to be a thermistor and Y could be just a simple resistor. Okay? تمام؟ Okay. Piece of soft iron, XY, has a coil of wire wound around it. The north pole of a bar magnet is pulled away. North pole of a bar magnet is pulled away from end X, which causes an induced current in the coil. The magnet is now turned around, so the north pole is on the left. It's turned around so that the north pole is on the left and the south pole is on the right. Okay, it is taken to the other end of the. It's taken to the other end of the soft iron, and the north pole is pushed towards Y. It's now pushed towards Y. Okay? So you turned it around, you put it on the other side, and you pushed it towards Y. A new current is induced in the coil. Which statement is correct? Which of these statements is correct? It's a bit tricky. Okay. This question is a bit tricky. Okay. But what happened?
wait مش هو طب ثانية يعني wouldn't it repel صح ولا لأ؟ I'm thinking about it إنه هنا S و N فالأكس هتبقى S صح ولا أنا wait
Okay,
wouldn't
okay, okay, okay. The
and
X in this case, the X would be north. Okay. لا, the X would be south, you said. صح?
then ال Y هتبقى north فهو لو هيجيب
Yes.
near the soft iron it would repel.
Okay. Okay.
بس I don't know بقى هو بيقول new induced current but the B with D دول فمش
Okay.
عارفة.
Okay. 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 You're on the right track. What about the induced poles when it was in this position, when it was in the initial position? When it's moving away, does it repel or attract?
wait repel لا attract.
Attracts. When it moves away, it attracts. So the initial position, let me draw it in blue. The initial position, it attracts. So the X would be south and the Y would be north. And the second position, while it's moving towards, it would repel. So this would be north and this would be south. With the same magnetic poles induced, what would happen to the current?
Wait what? Wait
It's gonna be
what do you mean?
the
Aren't they
opposite direction.
aren't they the same magnetic poles? South
Yeah.
and north and south and north.
Yeah.
So the current would remain in the same direction.
Yeah. Oh okay دلوقتي فهمت okay.
Again,
أيوة.
when it was moving, okay, to the left, okay, from this side, it's moving away. If you again, let's put it in other words, in very simple words. When you have a magnet moving away from a coil, what happens? It attracts. When a magnet moves away from a coil, what happens? It attracts, inducing opposite poles. So the north would induce a south pole on this side and north pole on the other side.
So
Okay?
the X would be north.
South and Y would be north. Okay?
Why would it not be north? The
W-
X.
X would be south. Why? Because when it's moving away, it attracts. When it's
أيوة بس also I told you that it switched.
one second. I'm talking initially. Okay? Initially, before you switched it.
Oh,
Initially,
okay.
before you switched it, okay, it was moving away. So you're now attracting the poles. It would be south and north. Quite simple. Now, we switched it and we put it on the other side and it's moving towards the coil. When it's moving towards the coil, what happens to the coil? What happens to the magnet? Okay, it repels. صح? When it repels, Y will become north and X will be south, which are the same initial poles, aren't they? They are the same initial poles as before, meaning that the current will be induced in the same direction.
بس here لو هو قال لي إن مثلا they changed the current أو كده هيبقى بقى in opposite direction.
Yes. Okay. The answer would be D. Why? Because the new induced current would be in the same direction. Okay. Why? Because the north pole will repel. North pole is repelling while moving towards the coil. Okay. I'm hoping that's an okay. Okay. This is an easier question. What's the effect on the wire? The current in the wire repeatedly changes. the current in this wire repeatedly changes. Okay, and the constant value of the opposite in the opposite direction from one positive to one negative. What's the effect on the wire? What happens to the wire? Hmm. What happens to the wire?
A.
The force in the wire alternates. Yes, keeps on alternating. Okay, keeps on alternating. Again, a very, very simple question. What's the relationship between these four quantities? Hmm. I know you know them.
اللي هي VP is equal to NP and PS equals NS. ولا
Which answer do you
It's
choose?
لا
You have to choose which
Oh,
answer.
ثانية بس wait voltage wait ثانية number of coil وأنا ليه كل حاجة داخلة في بعض wait
it's
ثانية
B.
It
is
is
it
B.
okay
VP over VS equals NP over NS. You can't say VP over VS equals NS over NP. This is wrong. Okay?
that's the current صح لا IS
No, the current would be VP
IV.
IP
IV.
equals VS IS.
okay
A magnesium ion has a double positive charge and a chloride ion has a single negative charge. Which statement is correct? Magnesium and it's such a chemistry question, but okay, we can solve it. Double positive charge, and the other one has a single negative charge. Chlorine.
It's A.
Hmm?
It's A.
It is A.
Mm.
Yes. Okay. It is A. Chlorine atom gains an electron to form a chloride ion. Okay. This question has nothing to do with physics, honestly. If I were you, I would just cancel this question. If I hadn't taken chemistry, I would have just ignored this question. Okay. Okay. Again, why did we choose A? Why did we choose A? Because a chloride ion. What's a chloride ion? Okay, it means that it initially was chlorine or whatever. It gained electrons. So it has a single negative charge. What does it mean that it has a single negative charge? That it gains an electron. That's it. Okay. It seems to be complicated, but that's as simple as it could get. It has a single negative charge. What do I mean by that? It has a single negative charge that it just gained an electron. That's it. Okay. Which row correctly describes an example of radioactive decay? Radioactive decay.
It's unstable.
Definitely, it has to be unstable. Okay.
And then there is a change of element.
There is a change of element. So
So
it would be
B.
B. Alpha changes the element. Yes. Alpha and beta. Okay. They both change the element. Radioactive isotope sodium has a half-life of 15 hours. The table gives data, okay, from an experiment to show how the rate of decay of the isotope varies with time. Background radiation has not been subtracted from these data. What is the background radiation? What is the background radiation? Okay, quite interesting. Quite interesting. How can we find the background radiation? What should I do?
First, we need to find it as 15 hours. Or no?
Can you find it at 15 hours? In this question? No. But you can find it at 30.
yeah so don't we do
Oh, so 2 half-lives.
by 2
Two
divide by
half-lives. Uh-huh. 2 half-lives. Okay.
so
What should we do?
so we're gonna do 400 divided by 2 200 and then 200 divided by 2 so then 100 ولا
If you have background radiation, what should you do? You should subtract, then divide, then add. صح? Minus, divide, plus. But the problem is you do not know what is the value that you should subtract. You don't know what is the value. What should I subtract? Let's try them out. Okay. Let's just try them out. Let's start with 30, for example. So 400 minus 30 is 370. 370. Let's divide by 2 times. Divide by 2 is 185, I guess. And then when you divide it by 2 again, it would be 92.5.
yeah.
And then when you add 30,
It's higher.
okay, when you add 30, it would be a bit higher. It would be 120, 22.5, which is not the same value. So it's not 30.
Oh, so we try all these count rates and options.
Okay. You can just try them out. Okay. Let's try 20. Okay. Let's try out 20.
Yeah, it's 20.
Yeah, 20. I got 115 في الآخر.
Okay. حلو. يبقى 400 minus 20 is 380. 380 divided by 2 is 190 divided by 2 again is 95. Then you add 20, which would be 150. So it is 20. Okay. What happens in the process of nuclear fission? Fission, huh?
The nucleus of an atom splits.
Yes.
Sorry?
Splits. Fission is the splitting of an atom. Time taken for the Earth to orbit the Sun is about 365 days. The average radius of the Earth is about 1.5 times 10 to the power 8 kilometers. What's the average orbital speed in meters per second? What's the equation we should use for the orbital speed?
Wait, هو 2 باي R أو حاجة زي كده.
Yes.
أو لا over T اللي هو ال
Yes,
period.
yes, yes. Speed equals 2 pi r over t. 2 pi times the radius, 1.5 times 10 to the power of 8. Should I leave the radius in kilometers?
No.
No.
In
No.
meter.
In this
So
in
the
this
power of
question,
11.
okay, in this question, you need to multiply it by 1,000. Why do you need to multiply by 1,000? Because the answer needs to be in meters per second. There are other questions in which you can leave it in kilometers because the answer could be in kilometers per hour. Other questions could be kilometers per days. Okay. But for this question, you need to be very specific. Okay. Kilometers, meters per second. And the period, the orbital period is 365 days. You need to convert this into seconds. How can I convert it into seconds?
Wait, is it times 24? Wait,
Times 24, huh?
60 times 60.
Times 60 times 60.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the answer is 30,000. Like
30,000.
20.
Okay. What?
So it's C.
Okay. It's around 30,000, which is C. Yes. Yeah. The sun transfers energy to the earth through electromagnetic radiation. What are two of the parts of the electromagnetic spectrum? To which most of the energy belongs?
Infrared, invisible light.
Infrared and visible light. This is correct. How does the sun produce its energy? Quite easy.
Fusion
Of hydrogen.
Of
hydrogen.
hydrogen, definitely. The fusion of hydrogen. Okay.